We'd like to begin this podcast by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today, the Whadjuk Noongar people, and pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. Here we are again, talking couch potatoes. It's episode 15, Mel. How are you?
I'm good.
We've come a long way, haven't we?
We have.
And we're evolving and changing and growing, getting ever more interesting guests.
Yes.
What did you think last week?
Is that fair to our first guests, though?
No one cares. I think the bar was set so high with Georgie Purcell, our first ever guest, our inaugural podcast guest. Today, we've got a lovely guest on today, Ash, and it's a bit lighter today. We can have a little light chit-chat.
Absolutely. It's
Sounds
always
really good.
nice.
As I mentioned, we are evolving and changing.
Yeah.
I've noticed some big winds of change occurring. So keep that in mind if you listen to previous episodes. For instance, we talked about the greyhound injury full recovery scheme. That's now called something else, Mel, the greyhound injury rebate scheme, because that's changed.
That's right, yep.
So it's a dynamic little situation we're in.
Unfortunately, we always have to be reactive rather than proactive.
Yep.
However, that's just the nature of what we do in advocacy.
Yeah, there's some great stuff in those earlier podcasts. We'd love you to go listen to them and share them with your friends and family. But keep in mind...
So you just have to listen to them all to keep up to date.
Listen to them all. One little fun update, though, from episode 10, we talked to Indy Davies of the Little Grey film. There's the music track to that, which is awesome. It's a song by The Dead Bets. And they've got a new music video out. It's really cool.
It is, and the West Australian Great Global Greyhound Walk of 2023, and one of Free the Hound's Grey Play Days was in there too, a snippet of that. So,
and you can see it where, Mel?
You can see it on YouTube. If you go to Bad Publicity, search for that on YouTube or look for it on social media as well.
Some further updates, Mel. I know we had a letter writing blitz to the MPs in terms of some of the issues around this industry.
Yeah, when it was really hot over the summer, we asked supporters, we wanted to actually have racing abandoned for several of the meetings. So we were asking them to send letters to either their local representative or to the Minister of Racing and Gaming or to the Premier. The
Minister of Racing and Gaming, that's Paul Papalia.
Yes. He has been responding. It seems that most of our supporters have been getting the same email, which, apparently that all WA racetracks are designed for greyhound safety and every precaution is taken to minimise risk. That's not true. They know that there's issues with Cannington Track. They know it.
Polly speak.
Yeah. RAWA's vision is to set the highest standards. So in other words, we're not there yet. Right. So let's get people like Free the Hounds in, or people that are advocating for greyhounds in to help.
Yeah.
1% of prize money is put away for welfare. And then RAWA's existing budget representing a total combined investment in animal welfare of approximately $6 million a year across the three codes. So why didn't he tell us in that line how much is for greyhounds?
Right.
Major injuries are rare in greyhound racing, with 99.7% of starters racing safely. Again, there is that starters versus dogs.
That's a particular bugbear for me, Mel. I've mentioned it a number of times. We talked about it with Sebastian on the last episode. If you've got two athletes, and one of them gets injured, wouldn't you say the injury rate for those two athletes is 50%? But what they'd say, if the two athletes had 50 races each, then the injury rate is 1%.
Yep.
It doesn't seem authentic.
No.
It's surely the number of injuries divided by the number of dogs.
You would think so. And my idea is particularly that these animals can't speak up for themselves. If you're doing it with athletes that are given consent, that are happy to be there, then okay. Or as Racing and Wagering have put it as an example, if you force your kids to do sport, otherwise they'll be sitting on their bums all day using screen time. That's still a form of consent. If your child gets to the age where they're going to refuse to get in the car, then that's some form of consent. These dogs have got nothing.
And if 30 to 40% of the kids came back with broken legs, you might reconsider sending them out to the sport.
Absolutely. And the other interesting thing in his response was, of the 167 greyhounds that competed on those two nights, 3 greyhounds sustained injuries, so they had to be euthanized. So they're saying that it's okay for 3 to die. Why is that okay? Who says that's okay? Every serious injury is subject to detailed review and analysis, including consultation with the racing industry veterinarians to ascertain any potential causes or remedial actions. we know that this is absolutely untrue. There's not even any imaging equipment at the racetracks.
Right.
You know, and again, these vets are paid by the running of these dogs.
Right.
So why would they say, you know, oh no, these dogs aren't fit, they can't race, there's not the income coming in?
So it was another conflict of interest.
Absolutely.
There. Yeah. So that's the response that everyone who
Yes.
chipped into this would have received.
Yes.
As I mentioned, a lot of poly speak, prevarication, diversion, distraction, and sometimes outright, we'll just say falsity.
Yes. But, okay, let's have an inquiry and figure out if this is true. And then we can all
Get on the same
settle
page.
the debate. Exactly. Yeah. And let's just focus on how these dogs are looked after or how we can make it better and work together. But until somebody outside of the industry that is not getting paid by the industry can look at it and say, yep, then we don't really know. Right. Nor does the minister.
We need an independent, objective arbiter of these kind of things.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Mel, there was one more thing I just wanted to mention before we move on to our wonderful guest today, and that is there's a protest coming up. It's the Sandgroper protest happening on the 18th of April, so that's next week pretty much. It's at Cannington Racetrack. What is it? How do you get involved?
Okay, so anybody is welcome to come along, and please, if it's hot, please don't bring your greyhound. It's not the responsible thing to do, but we would ask as many of our followers as possible to be there at 5 p.m. The Sandgroper, sadly, or horrifically named after a dog that actually died there, it'll be 2 years ago now, is one of the tri-code racing events of that weekend. So you have greyhounds on Thursday, harness racing Friday, and then thoroughbreds on Saturday.
Right.
And people from the East Coast come over. It's a
big one.
Yeah, and it's also a slot race. So you have to buy for your dog to get into a box. Yep. And this time you had to actually pay for 3 years. So that's, I think, how desperate they are to try and keep it an event.
Yeah.
You know, but I can tell you what, I wouldn't be having my dog run on Cannington. Yeah, last year, 2 of the best runners in the race both sustained injuries.
Well, isn't it? I mean, the pro racers will debate this using some fuzzy figures, but I believe Cannington has held the title of the most dangerous track.
Of the deaths, the highest deaths. But again, Racing and Wagering said because there was more races run there than there was at the other tracks. But we actually did the count, and that's not the case.
Wow. So come along on Thursday, the 18th of April, barely a week away for the Sandgroper protest. The more numbers we can get, I guess the more visible we can be, the more visible we are, the bigger a message we send out to those at the track, to those who maybe are on the fence a little bit about this. Get a louder voice.
And again, as we learnt from Sebastian, it's from an economic perspective as well.
Thanks.
Do you want your taxpayer money going to funding animal cruelty?
Thanks, Mel. Let's move on to our wonderful guest today. Today we're going to have just a bit of a chat to Ash. Hi, Ash.
Hello.
How are you?
Ash. Yeah, good.
Nice to have you here. Ash is actually an emergency vet nurse. She's been doing that for about 5 years, has worked for the Dog Refuge Home, and you've rescued Bertie a couple of years ago. Can you tell us a little bit about Bertie, how he came into your life?
Yeah, for sure. So Bertie came into a previous vet clinic that I worked at. He was brought in by his foster carers because he was found to be limping. So we had to take some x-rays of his foot, and I absolutely fell in love with him the second I saw him. He was roaching in the kennels. He had no cares in the world. And it was found on his back right foot that he had previously broken his 2 middle toes, and they had healed incorrectly and had severe arthritis in 2 of his toes. Yep. They weren't aware of how he'd previously done it, and then he was put up for adoption.
Did he have a racing career? Can I ask that? Yeah,
for sure. So he did have a racing career. I researched his previous racing history just out of my own curiosity, and the only real information I could find was a Free the Hounds post on the injury that he had sustained.
Free the Hounds are pretty good, aren't they? Free the Hounds, they're a great organisation for finding information.
Yes. So, because they told me that they weren't aware of how he'd injured his foot. So it was quite a bit of a revelation. It didn't change my opinion on him at all. I still took him home. But, it was just interesting seeing
Do you know how many races he'd had? Did that come up in the research?
He had 21 starts.
Wow, okay. Do you get a sense of any of the effects that might have had? Are they coming up with Bertie?
He does have a couple of quirks, I like to call them. He's incredibly dog-friendly, cat-friendly. I used to live with 2 Sphinx cats, and small dog-friendly, but he doesn't particularly like bobtails. Yes, so...
Okay. Does he go after him?
Yeah, so he gets quite riled up, and you see that over-arousal of him, and so every time he goes to my parents' place, he knows that there was a bobtail there, and he'll do laps and laps of the house until he can actually settle when there's definitely none there. So he does still have that slight prey drive, that oval arousal that they're trained for to chase something, but it's manageable. It's not something that affects
that's
our
nice.
daily life.
There's a bit of a myth, and pro racers really hammer this point, that greyhounds love to run. That's their thing. Yes, they love to run. I've seen Bo and Bunny run in the off-lead areas we're allowed to go, but they prance and they sort of run this way and that way. It's entirely different from racetrack running, where their adrenaline is pumped to the max. They're running one way around a circle. The prey drive is triggered to the top level possible. I can't imagine that's an enjoyable version of running.
Yeah, no, not at all. And there's a massive difference between, that racetrack running and his bounding around like an absolute dog.
Yeah.
I've got this gorgeous video of him running around my auntie's property, and he's just having the time of his life, just like prancing around, and it's gorgeous.
You can just visually you can see the difference. If you go and watch some of the Free the Hound videos, there's plenty on there. If you're curious about this, if you're on the fence, have a goddamn look at what greyhounds look like when they're having fun running, and have a look at what they look like on that track, and tell me there's not a scary difference between that. I hear he comes to work with you, Ash.
He does, indeed. So previously in my vet clinics, he comes to work with me all the time. He's a lovely, lovely dog, and it always brings everyone joy. Yeah, he comes to work in my office job with me now, which is amazing. And he lays upside down in the reception, and
nice.
He has the best time. Yeah, and he's so placid, and he just wants to be with everyone else.
And I guess in your work as a vet nurse, an emergency vet nurse, it must be tough work at times, I imagine.
Yeah, the vet world, it is a very mentally and physically draining industry.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, veterinarians have the highest rate of suicide.
I've heard that.
Yeah, in any industry.
That's tragic, isn't it?
Yeah,
really? Yeah.
So having greyhounds coming into work that are just the most beautiful, placid thing, and it brings everyone a smile, and greyhounds are one of the calmest dogs I've ever seen in a vet clinic.
Right. They're gentle creatures, aren't they?
Yeah, incredibly gentle.
What's some of the common health issues you've found, maybe that are distinct to greyhounds?
Yeah, for sure. So there are a number of things that greyhounds tend to be more prone to than other breeds. Dental disease is actually one that is found in a lot of greyhounds. Roughly about 80% of dogs by the time they turn 3 have some form of dental disease, whether it's the slightest bit of calculus or gingivitis or actually needing teeth out. For whatever reason, greyhounds, whippets, Italian greyhounds are really genetically prone to that as well. So they do often require teeth out earlier than other dog breeds.
Do you have a sense of why that might be endemic to the greyhound breed?
So that one is actually quite interesting, because when you see some of the greyhounds that come straight off of the track, they quite often have worn down front teeth, their incisors.
Yep.
And that comes from chewing at bars, basically.
Oh.
They're physically worn down, and that's why their teeth turn out that way. So Bertie, when I got him, he had a dental clean before he came to me, but all of his front incisors are all worn down to their roots, and it wasn't painful at the time that I got him, and that's fine. It's something we managed, but he now had to have 8 of his teeth out.
It's just the mental image you just brought up for me then, Ash. We know objectively that sometimes the conditions that these hounds are kept in, these racing hounds, aren't ideal. There's not a lot of enrichment. The image of one of these beautiful creatures gnawing on a bar.
Yeah. For me, also seeing Bertie, that he would have been in that position is also, incredibly heartbreaking. But he's made it through. He's got his little gummy teeth now. It was quite funny because he had his teeth out on the Monday, and then I had my wisdom teeth out that same week. My poor partner. He had to look at after both of us sooking on the couch together.
That's lovely. Sounds like he's got a beautiful life now, whatever he's been through in the past.
Yeah, for sure. So with Bertie and his dental issues, there are lots of things you can do to maintain their dental hygiene. So actually brush his teeth every day. So I have a little finger brush, and yeah, he knows every night you've got to brush his teeth, and then he eats his dinner with all of his dental supplements and things on there. So yeah, there's lots of things that you can do to maintain their teeth as well.
Now, that's an interesting one. How the hell are you managing to do some home teeth brushing?
It's a lot of positive reinforcement. So he knows that once his teeth have been cleaned, that he gets his biscuits and treats and things, and then, yeah, he gets his full dinner. And it's mostly just making it positive. And if they don't like it, you don't force them to.
Yeah.
There's other ways of maintaining their dental health, like your dental treats and little seaweed powders as well that can go on there. But, yeah, it's basically just preventing it rather than, them having to go under an anaesthetic to have them cleaned as well. You're better off preemptively.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. And you're a volley. You're a volley for Free the Hounds. How did you sort of move into that volunteer space?
So I'm still quite a fresh volley with Free the Hounds, but it's been amazing. The whole support from everyone is incredible. When I first moved to Perth, didn't have a dog of my own, so I went and helped walk the dogs and play with dogs that needed love and attention and things. So yeah, that's how I started getting into volunteering with rescue organisations and so forth. I ended up being fortunate enough to get a job with them as well. So I was nursing there too, which was amazing. And then, yeah, once I adopted Bertie, I really wanted to be proactive with him and advocating for other greyhounds as well, because he's a perfect example of a greyhound, and he loves people and he loves going to markets.
Yep.
He is a very good advocate himself for greyhounds.
Yeah, you know, I'm a convert to greyhounds. I've mentioned a couple of times. I used to think they were scrawny and things, not real pets. And literally now, let's just cancel the other breeds. They're unnecessary. We have the we have the perfect example of this creature. It's called a greyhound. Sorry to all those other dog breed owners out there. It's a highly biased viewpoint. The opinions of the host are not the opinions of Free the Hounds. Ash, there's one big thing that I want to talk to you about, which I don't know a lot about. Didn't even know it existed, frankly. In that is a blood donation for hounds, or I guess for animals, for dogs in general. Can you tell us a little bit about greyhound blood donation in particular, because it's quite unique?
Yeah, for sure. So obviously working in an emergency clinic, there are circumstances that other pets will need blood. For example, if they've eaten rat bait, they'll need a blood transfusion. If they have a major surgery, that they are likely to lose blood as well. And greyhounds are, funnily enough, a universal blood group. So they are known as universal blood donors, and they can donate to any dog that needs it.
Wow. So just another way greyhounds are really the only breed required, because they can donate blood to anyone. I think you just backed up my case. So that's a good reason why maybe you can contribute in many ways. Sounds like one of them would be to take them in for a blood donation. What's that process like, and how can people go about that, Ash? Yeah,
for sure. So Bertie has donated 6 times now. Has gone to 3 different emergency clinics and donated. He's been a standby donor, so someone needed it there and then. And he's also been a donor for, specific cases that they hold blood as well. So the criteria for being a blood donor, most important is that they're comfortable with it. You don't want to put them in a position that they're not going to feel comfortable in. So as long as they're placid and willing to go into a vet clinic, that's the most important part. Bertie's been coming to vet clinics with me for a long time now.
It's his second home, really.
He practically is,
He probably runs the joint by now.
Yeah, definitely. Everyone knows who Bertie is.
Yeah.
So as long as they're happy and comfortable. They do need to be over 25 kilos. Some clinics require them to be 30 kilos, and they need to be between 1 to 8 years of age, where their prime adult development is. They also can't be on any long-term medications. They need to be, healthy, no health conditions themselves.
So non-smokers, you'd prefer non-smoking hounds?
Non-smokers, yeah.
Sure.
And they can't be on a raw food diet. Raw food carries quite a high risk of parasites and things. So, and up to date with their vaccines and worming and so forth. So.
And do they get a little lollipop once they're done?
Oh, goodness, yeah. They get absolutely spoiled to bits. He gets absolutely spoiled. They get goodie bags as well. They get a little prize pack of all sorts of treats and toys and bandanas.
And is there any sort of after effects, at-home care or considerations that if you decide to do this, you might want to keep in mind?
So they do donate from their jugular, which is in their neck, because that is the best spot to pump it out from.
And it's a safe process.
It is an incredibly safe process, yes. So they'll come in, they get a full health check, they have all of their bloods taken and run for free. Yeah, very thorough health checks. And then they numb the area as well, so I don't even feel the needle.
Yep.
And it goes into their jugular. They get laid on their side, so that's another thing of why they need to be happy and willing to be there, is because they do have to lay on their side for the process.
With lots of belly rubs.
Oh, yes. Lots of belly rubs. And then, the process usually takes about 20 minutes, if that. But that's why greyhounds are great, because they pump that out. Bertie got 450 mils out in 10 minutes, and that was a record.
Wow.
So once they've finished with their donation, they will go home with a bandage around their neck, a very soft bandage. They will need to keep that on for about 24 hours just to keep it nice and compressed, so there's not too much of a bruise that's there. They will need to be rested for the next day or so. That's probably the hardest part with Bertie, because he just wants to zoom. But keeping them nice and calm, giving them plenty of water, plenty of food, but they don't usually feel much of an effect for it.
If I wanted to take Bunny or Bo down, probably Bo.
Yeah.
Probably
Bo.
I can't imagine Bunny doing it.
Yeah, she's unique, Bunny. She's very self-centered, I'm afraid. I'm not sure she'd even believe in the concept of giving blood, frankly.
Yeah, she can stay on the couch. That's perfectly fine. It's not for everyone.
So where would I take my good boy, Bo, who's got quite a social conscience and is willing to give to his fellow hounds? Where would I take him?
So you can reach out to all the emergency centres that are around. On their websites, all of them have links to be able to apply for that one. Based in Perth, you've got your Perth Vet Specialists, Perth Vet Emergency, Murdoch and Waves, and they all are very keen for more blood donors. There's a very big shortage of it at the moment, so the more hounds we can get into vet hospitals, the better.
Great. So if we've got any listeners out there that want to do that, get out there and do it. And would love to hear your feedback, actually, at podcast@freethehounds.com.au. How it went. Was it a pleasant process? Were the belly rubs sufficient? How did your dog go? Any tips on those, on ways of making it easier? Let us know, because it sounds like a really important thing, especially if blood is low at the moment.
I just want to play the devil's advocate here. You've probably heard about Murdoch and the things that they used to do to the greyhounds.
Yep.
So we do have a lot of people that are not against it, but worried that they still do that kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure. So I work quite closely with a lot of people at Murdoch, and that does not happen anymore.
Yeah.
Could we maybe clarify for our listeners what exactly the concerns were previously?
Well, so that's where a lot of greyhounds that didn't pass the behavioural test gap were sent then to be put down or to be euthanased. But prior to being euthanased, they would be kept there, used for blood donations, used for experiments. Andrew Knight, I think, spoke to us asking that his university stop using animals for experiments and for working on for veterinary students and things like that. But it was also just very convenient for the industry and for participants to just get rid of wastage and dogs that they didn't need to use.
For those purposes.
Yeah.
And we did have a big chat back in episode 6, two-parter, episodes 6 and 7, with Andrew Knight on all those issues, if you want to check out more.
Yeah, I'd encourage our listeners to realise is that it's very different.
Yeah,
and that
very different.
Because people have become aware of it and people have decided, okay, we need to be better than this, it's changed.
Yeah.
I work very, very closely with a lot of vets from Murdoch, and their whole attitude has completely changed. And if they are teaching students, they do use dogs that have been specifically donated. If they do go and they are put to sleep, the owners elect that they are used for educational purposes more so than
humans can do that with our own bodies.
Yeah,
too,
exactly.
So it's,
going to a good cause.
Yeah,
that was a lovely chat, Mel. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I was like the Grim Reaper at the end, but I just
Mel always keeps an eye on uncovering some of the darkness that is hidden within this industry and its peripheral areas as well. So I think that's super important that people are aware. I think we've had a lovely time with Ash today, and we've talked about how beautiful these creatures are and Bertie, but there's a real dark underbelly to this industry, to what is done to greyhounds, and we'll never lose sight of that. We're going to shine a light on it, aren't we, Mel?
Yeah. And I think it's important for those that have died
to honour, to make that mean something, and to bring about change. Ash, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Go check Bertie out at bertie.the.bug on Insta. Insta. That's what the kids are doing, isn't it?
I did just want to make a special mention to my little cousin Ronan, who is Bertie's biggest fan on Instagram. He is 2 years old.
Aww.
And I get video messages from our auntie saying, Bertie, please, and he just sits there watching Bertie reels.
Oh,
So
wow.
hello, Ronan.
That's awesome. Hi, Ronan. Thanks again, Ash. Thanks, Mel. Thanks, Jem, our producer. What a lovely little episode this one was. All going toward the cause, the vision of one day ending this inhumane, unsustainable, outdated sport so that we can release the hounds.